Welcome back to Guido's Chop Shop, the second best gel blaster channel on the internet, and today we got the aluminium bulk kit for the M145 AWM Car 98 suite. This is a version 2, 2.5, 3, I don't know, I've lost count to be honest. What I can tell you about this version that's different from previous versions that I've had is this slippery little sucker. In the end here, one of the issues we had previously is this nozzle seal would pop off and you'd need to glue it on. You can possibly see on this new one here, you can see there's actually some little tabs there. So when you do glue this one in place, it's also got some mechanical support to assist holding that seal in place. It's also got a nice little soft buffer pad on the back there to make it a little bit quieter, I guess, in operation. Also what I've got here is a VSR10 M145 spring, which I am going to attempt to install in here, and anyone who's done this will know this doesn't fit into this. So I'm going to take a bit off this spring guide and try and get it to fit there. Alright, looking at the size of it, I'm gonna say 8.97 millimeters on the guide, and the inside of the spring is 8.29. So there's only a small margin there, but I should be able to skim a bit of metal off this and see how we go. Alright, sweet, that looks good enough for me. Alright, finished part. Screw it on. New spring. Beautiful. Alright, rock and roll. As always, just a dab of super glue on these threads to keep these Teflon bushes in place. Don't want them sliding off during operation, of course. And you might want to super glue or Loctite this one as well. I mean, the aim is just to stop it from vibrating loose. I think some people criticized me for not using Loctite last time. It is what it is. Just want to make sure it doesn't vibrate loose during operation. It's 6 of one, half a dozen the other. Just something. You could use bloody chewing gum if you wanted. It doesn't matter. It's not like a high precision sort of thing. It's just you just want it not to fall off. Again, bit of super glue on the nozzle. Even though they've got the little pieces of there's little posts to hold it on there a bit better this time. It's always good to just get that super glue in there too. Just so that doesn't pop off. Alright, we don't need this. I'm going to chuck some oil on this O-ring. I'm just gonna chuck a bit of Loctite on this one as well. Again, like I said, it's not like it's, you just don't want it to vibrate loose in operation, that's all. Just a dab of Loctite. Beautiful. Tell your mum. I'm going to load this one up into the cylinder. Put some oil on that O-ring as well while I'm here before it goes in. I think it was Darren who suggested last time that I stick a screwdriver in here to hold it down, which is a great idea. I think that's probably what all this stuff is designed for. Get a bit of oil in there. Not too much, just enough to lubricate that O-ring. I've never been a huge fan of the fact that you've got to push the O-ring past this threaded section before it goes into the cylinder. It bugs me a little bit, but it is what it is. Just make sure that on its way in you don't pinch it, and when you push it down in here, this is the part where you want to grab it with a screwdriver or something. Alright, of course, ever prepared as I am, I have a screwdriver just off camera. So there is a little piece you can stick the screwdriver down into, and then while holding that back, you can thread your cylinder head on, which makes it much easier than trying to hold it down and push it in. You can also get your 14mm spanner onto that little bit. I noticed they've also, in this revision, I don't know if you can tell, but in this revision they have added 2 holes. So you could use a set of circlip pliers or something. I happen to have a set of circlip pliers here. So you can just stick those in the hole there and do it up. That is actually heaps easier than trying to use a shifter or a spanner on that 1/2 mil of meat that they've got there. Alright, and that is that so far. Just going to whack this bolt into an AWM, and then we'll get on with it. Of course, everyone wants those before and after chronos, so I'll get those before ones out of the way. Alright, so we've got a average of 167 and a max of 191. So that is the standard AWM on standard Milkies. Just going to crack this bolt out, this barrel. Alright. Alright, if you are familiar with the M24/AWM/custom car 98, you'll be familiar with this. It's the same setup all the way through. Basically, we're going to replace the bolt plastic one with this alloy one. Done this several times before, but if you haven't seen it before, come ride with me on this magical journey. Take all these self-tapping screws out of here. Just be aware, obviously, when you're pulling this apart, there is springs inside here that have a tendency to want to fly out when you open it up. One of the main ones, I think, that likes to shoot out is the one that holds this piece in. It's in here somewhere, I think. Just keep your eye out on that one. Carefully separate your top from your bottom. This is the one that wants to fly out, so just carefully separate that. Try not to lose that one. Alright, another one which I've noticed lately seems to be omitted. There is, on the earlier versions, there is actually a safety catch in here that doesn't let you pull the trigger without the bolt being down. That seems to be omitted from some of the later ones, but there's your plastic bolt. Pull that pin out, and this thing can almost go straight into the bin, but there is one piece that we've got to extract because for reasons unknown still to this day, whoever it is that makes these alloy bolt kits cannot provide us with a detent. So I've got to pull the Phillips head out the end there and carefully slide it off. This one's a bit tight. There we go. And there's your spring and your detent. So that's what we want. We want to keep that spring and that detent because we want to put it into here, so that when we put our new bolt in, it'll lock in. If that makes sense. If it doesn't now, it will later. Trust me. So what we'll do here now, I'll get this handle on. We'll put the detent in here. Apologies if I'm obscuring it with my hand. And this will slide on. There we go. Once that lines up, you use the supplied Allen head screw to hold that in place. It's a 3mm, I have one here. It is convenient. Alright. So that detent just gives you that nice click on the handle. this can just slide in here. On this particular one, I'm not actually replacing the barrel, so I am just gonna replace the bolt. This pin goes down in here. You might have to lever that back a bit, perhaps, with a screwdriver or something. Should slide in there. I don't know why they don't give us a metal replacement for this pin, or an alloy replacement for this pin, because it is mostly plastic, and it does have a metal pin through the center of it to give it some strength, but I mean, it could be better, you know, could be better. Okay, so I just had to lever that piece back with a screwdriver while I dropped that pin back in, and now this can go straight back in there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to replace this with this. Now we've got a metal pin to replace that plastic pin, so we can put that in, but we do need to retrieve this spring. It's pretty handy to keep the orientation of that spring, so that when you do slide it on, you've got it still the same way as the original one. And of course the end of that pops up into the slot there to hold the bolt back when you pull it back. It's what sets your spring, and then when you pull your trigger here, it pushes down on that and releases it. Alright, with that done, we are going to put it back together. Simple as that. Just make sure everything lines up properly. Alright, and when that all goes back together nicely, make sure you line this pin up here with your trigger and that hole and that square there. Make sure you don't lose your spring for your release there either. Pop all those screws back in. Alright. That looks good. Pop it back into the furniture. Go, and then there's the 3 Allen head bolts. I do have this set to a very low torque setting. It is screwing into metal nuts, so it should be relatively strong, but you know how these things are. I'll whack this really cheap and nasty excuse for a scope on, because that's what it is. And let's hit the chrono. Alright, here we go. Whoa, holy moly, that is a stiff spring. Now the variance that we are getting in the results here is probably down to the gels that I'm currently using. I'm just using some scrap gels off my bench. I'd probably have to use some of the hardened Armatex to take full advantage of this thing now, with that VSR spring in it. Either way, got an average of 360, which is decent. Max of 465. So might have to load some Armatex into this and see how we go, hey? Alright, I've got some Osgel white Armatec Milkies loaded in now. Let's give it a crack. Still a little bit all over the place. I think, let's face it, I think this spring's probably a little bit too stiff for this blaster. I think this spring's probably a little bit too stiff for any blaster, for that matter. Either way, it is what it is. Well, there you have it. Powerful yet inconsistent. Probably the story of every blaster that's got a spring in it that's too big. Either way, if you like what I'm doing here, don't forget to buy me a coffee. I still have like 1 or 2 patches left, so hit me up on an email if you want a patch. I'm going to put a link in the description to where you can get this alloy bolt kit. For what it's worth, the standard spring in it is pretty good. You don't have to go to a M145 or anything ridiculous like that. But I will put the links down in the description to where you can get these. And as always, have a nice day. Thanks for watching.